Alright, so this is going to be the final vid on this. Been out of town, vacation, all that. It sat for a long time. We're going to retorque the valve body. Everything else, copacetic. So we're going to retorque the valve body, put the cooler fittings in, the pan, mask off all the electrical connections, and paint it up nice. So that is the plan. I start with the 10 millimeters because they hold the plate down with a thick gasket to the valve body. Usually seems a good place to start because you're already going to compress one gasket with part that's bolted to the valve body. So of course that ain't going to go down anymore. That's all metal. And we're going to start the center. Usually the long bolts have enough stretch. They don't really deviate that much. Well, that one did. The valve body bolts normally don't move much. It's always the bolts on the plate because that gasket is so thick. There's a lot of compression to it. And this thing sat for, I guess, a week while I've been out of town. So it's had ample time to compress. Do one more pass. Yeah, I think we'll be copacetic on this. That feels good there. Let's see. Alright, so that's good. So the next thing will be the filter. Which, we'll grab. Alrighty. Got our, let me get the, oh shit, as far as that goes, we can just do this. Clean tranny fluid. There you go. 4x4 filter, obviously. That'll just kind of stay. Got the gasket on there. Well, actually, we're not using this because we have the molded. There you go. Got our magnet in there. Yeehaw. Everything plugged up. Yep. Butamus. And alrighty. The reusables are great on the pan gasket if it's had one its entire life. If these pans have ever had anything else or improper torqued, you're going to have issues. So it's better to keep them, if they've had reusable. If you got a good reusable, that's by far your best bet. The cork that I took off, the corks are good for sure, assuming there's been no issues. So, yeehaw, let me see here. Two of these bolts are different, I remembered, there we go. For the bolts we're using are those. The bracket for the, see the difference there, these are for the bracket that it had on it. For the electrical connector out of the original application, which obviously we are not using. Alright, so let's get the other socket. And this is obviously just the modification and the rebuild. Going to be interesting actually putting this thing together in the Bronco. Which is not the end of the world by any means. And obviously once it's in, I'll retorque the pan. We're just looking for preliminary. There she is. And our cooler line fittings here, we will put some Teflon tape action, which that we don't want to mess with. They just seem to seal a bit better with the old Teflon tape action. And I always do them by hand. They're a 3/4. No. It does help if you put it on the right way. So obviously when you put it in, you're threading to the right. So the idea is if you start under and roll it clockwise, when you thread it in, it's not going to peel off. Small note, but obviously effective. Alright, only other thing I can think of is we have the seals for the cooler line fittings and the O-ring for speedometer and dipstick tube, which will go on later. So I normally just, because this will sit for a little while, not crazy long time, before she goes into her final resting place. So put our O-rings in and just center them, make sure they're seated in the grease there. So there we go. So basically at this point, all we're worried about is not getting paint on electrical connectors. And I know if you don't spray over them, I've had people, well, just don't spray over it. Yeah, whatever. It still will get around, believe me. So I just tape over. We just don't want anything getting on the pins. Doesn't have to be super insane. Just don't want anything on the pins. Especially on, you know, we have our rain sensor here. No big deal. The paint will go further than you think when it comes to, you know, it doesn't take a whole lot to interrupt and have issues with connectivity. So we're just doing what we can there. Let's see. Oh boy. Want to hit it one good time. Man, gonna be a beauty. Gonna be amazing. Ah, it's got enough in it. Woo, 20 minutes. Appointment to go to, and we are cutting it close. All good in the hood. The customer wanted this painted, which I would have painted it anyhow because it makes them look better. Got to do the old Picasso touch on these things, you know. There's only so much you can do to get this aluminum nice and clean. Obviously not really worried about painting the tail housing because it's brand used, or brand new actually. It's all nice and whatever it's going to be. Nice thing about painting one too, if you have a leak, you'll be able to see where the leak is. So that's good fun. And I'll probably do another coat on this in the morning time. Make it look a little better. We're just trying to do a rough covering here to get it all what we're hoping to see. And you can see it matches the new aluminum very well. So that's good. Okay. Used to these having a lot more output shaft, easier to grab and slide around, but this one just ain't in the cards. Alright, so let's do the excess bell back here on the bottom. Man, amazing. Would you look at that? And I will add this. When you do this, do yourself a favor. Scrape or brake clean the scale, rust everything off. Make sure it's clean. And where the bolts normally have a lock washer, if they don't, put one on or clean where they come through the bell, because it's a ground issue. So scrape and clean this where the bell meets the block or the plate, because it'll have a plate between, and run a lock washer on the bolts, or scrape, clean, wire brush, whatever, where the head of the bolt touches the tranny case, to ensure that you have a good ground. So there you go. This is the complete 470W going behind a 5.0. It's going in a I forget the year at this point, Bronco. So we'll upload this. Appreciate everybody watching. Thank you, and hope you enjoy. If you have questions, holler at me. I'll answer. Thank you.